Welcome to the Penn State School of Music. Here we start the journey of più nascoste. This project was inspired when I started to consider the goals of some of my second-year graduate students. We started to have conversations about what was important to them and what their goals were for their journey, and several of them were really interested in early music. In coming to Penn State, I was really inspired by one of the first people that I met here, Dr. Marica Tocconi. Her scholarship takes us to Venice, to Italy, and to early music. And so I was really interested in collaborating with her at some point. When that combined with the interests of my second-year graduate students, I knew that we had a seed.
It is thrilling for me as someone who has devoted my professional life to music of this period, rediscovering repertoire that has been neglected for so many centuries, and to be able to then do that here at Penn State, to see the students involved in such a project, and to be able to then share all of this with our audiences.
I knew Dawn when she was an undergrad at Ithaca College a million years ago. We were both very young. So when she moved here and told me about this project, I was really intrigued, and I told her I'd like to be involved. I didn't know what that meant. I volunteered. Use me as you wish.
What I'm excited about is the collaboration that this opera brings with the School of Theater and the School of Music here at Penn State.
I was first asked to join this project over the summer. Dawn had reached out and we went and had coffee on a beautiful summer day and talked about the project and our hopes and dreams for the opera program in the School of Music. And it just evolved from there. And that was the point where I went, oh, whatever I can do, I want to be a part, if not of this project, which thankfully I am, definitely other projects in the future.
The lovely thing that has kind of come about in this collaboration is that my main focus is what are you doing with the text, whether it's in your aria, your ensemble singing, or in the spoken dialogue, to move the action forward. Like, what is your character doing? What is your character's point of view? And what does your character want?
The beginning of this opera, I was told by Dawn, began when she and Marica Tocconi went out for Thai food and started talking about how this coordination into an opera might begin. By the way, if they want to go out for Thai food again and come up with something else, I'll pay.
So Venice had 4 ospedali grandi, as they were called. These institutions were really founded to provide help to those in need. And then eventually these institutions, without exception, took in orphans and foundlings, both boys and girls. The boys were taught various trades, and the girls that showed musical promise were instructed in music by some of the best musicians and composers of the time. And the most notable example, of course, is Antonio Vivaldi, who was maestro at the Pietà for many years.
When Dawn told me the basic outline of what she sort of envisioned, I immediately went back into research of the ospedali. And of course, Vivaldi. And because I have a DMA in choral music, that man is well known to me. And I had a women's chorus when I was in California. So all of this was sitting there just kind of humming. And I went to the internet, the source of all wisdom, and read more about the actual lives of the young singers and the young orchestra people there. I got intrigued by the fact that they had this incredible musical life, but their inner lives were struggling, trying to find a sense of who they were and where they belonged in the world. So after that research, I tapped into my own past, which is being an adoptive mother. I adopted my son from Russia when he was 2 years old. And I knew that no parent wants to give up their child, ever. They always hope they can come back. I saw it. I saw it at the orphanage. And I started to think, what would happen if somebody wanted to come back and find their child? And that story sort of grew, and I told it to Cole and to Dawn, and we sort of took it from there.
There were 4 of these institutions. They were named the Pietà, the Incurabili, the Mendicanti, and the Derelitti. The Derelitti was also known as the Ospedaletto because it was the smallest of the 4. The suffix etto means small, so the Ospedaletto.
When I started to think about this project as a whole and the depth of it, I immediately had a spark way deep down inside that said, I think we need to go to Venice. And I have to say that I believe Dr. Ciccone had the same idea independently. And we were thrilled when we heard it was fully funded and we were going to be able to take a group of students to Venice. When Dr. Ciccone and I went into the meeting to present this to Director Stanley, she championed the entire project at the highest level and really met our biggest dreams about making it happen, including helping us get that trip to Venice.
So in January of 2026, we took 7 graduate students to Venice. They were there for a week, the very first week of January. It was very cold, but it was incredibly magical. And I have to say that I've been at Penn State now 28 years. And for me, this was one of the highlights of my years as a professor.
The trip to Venice for me was life-changing, honestly. I think it helped me to learn how to really be a director. And it took the visioning to a whole other level for me as I was constantly taking things in, thinking about the production, sending photos to my design team. I was sending things to my costumers and lighting designers and set designers, and starting to really think about how the recital hall and the ospedale and the ospedaletto had things in common.
My favorite part of going to Venice is definitely being able to have a culmination of all of the research and learning of these women and girls who just created such beautiful music and were so important to the musical history of Venice.
We went to the Teatro La Fenice Opera House, a couple of the ospedali, of the historic ospedali of Venice, and it took a couple of the students who are in the musicology program to one of the libraries to view some of the manuscripts from the 17th century. Normally these spaces are closed to the public, so I was able to make special arrangements to get the students to go into these beautiful spaces. I think one of my favorite moments was when we took the students to St. Mark's Basilica. Well, first we had them close their eyes as they were walked to Piazza San Marco, because I think that moment of seeing the Basilica for the first time is one that I still remember. And we wanted the students to have that same experience of just being awestruck by the beauty, by the sense of place.
I think it's so special to make music with your friends while we're here, but to do it in the space in which the music was written, and to experience the culture and experience the atmosphere and sort of put yourself in that time period is just really deeply meaningful. My second favorite part would have definitely been the food, and my least favorite part was the airplane.
The moment that took my breath away was when we walked into the Ospedale della Pietà for the first time. A place that I had been studying for that past year and had been writing about and had only seen in pictures came to life in a whole different way. And it added depth to my understanding of the experience and also the beauty and care that was taken for these young girls.
My favorite part of all of Venice was seeing St. Mark's Basilica, being able to see a live service for the first time in a church of that grandeur. Being someone who's been a lifelong church musician and someone who plans to study early music in my doctoral degree, it's just so gratifying to see that people are still pursuing this, that it's music that's alive today, and that it's so special and intimate.
One of the other things I remember and I was really inspired by was the light. And so the way that light works in Venice was different than anywhere I've ever been. You'll see the building, but then you see the reflection of it in the water. Or when you're thinking about the grills that were in the ospedale, from one side you would see one thing and from another side another thing, but then how the light reflected off those things and created shadows and created depth was just so beautiful to me and so inspiring, and something that I was really excited to work with my design team to bring together to share a bit of that with the audiences.
It was great to see the students being coached while they were in Venice by the wonderful musicians of the Venice Music Project, specifically Lisa Audenweller, the soprano and artistic director, and Maria Jovanovic, the harpsichordist. And without exception, all of the singers just really blossomed. And I think it was a combination of the instruction that they received, the coaching, but also I think being in Venice, which was really the capital of music for many centuries.
Being in Venice actually inspired the study for my upcoming lecture recital in the fall. I plan on focusing on women within the walls and focusing on music that women of their time wrote that didn't get a chance to be heard because they were women, and how it further influenced the more large Baroque composers that we think of like Handel and Bach, and how women today are reclaiming that music, and how women had such an important influence in the church that lifelong affected the music that we see today, and how important it is that we continue to raise up their voices even though they're long gone.
So many things I love about this opera, so many things I'm excited about. I'm really excited about working with all the instrumentalists. Like the early music ensemble is so cool that we're getting to collaborate with them. But my favorite is collaborating with our flautist. She plays my spirit in the show, and we're kind of duetting each other in some pieces, and she represents me in different sections, and it's just been really, really cool to do that.
One thing that I knew from the beginning is that I wanted to have one piece that really tied everything together. When I had heard this Anna Bonn piece, I had it in my mind that I just loved the melody so much, and I started to explore like, what if we set words to that particular piece?
Anna Bonn is an interesting figure. She was taken in at the age of 4 by the Ospedale della Pietà. But it's interesting because she was not an orphan. So most of the young women or girls of the Pietà were orphaned or foundling. But in her case, she was not. She was a paying pupil, a figlia della spesa, as they called it, which means that she was there to be instructed. She took viola lessons, she took violin lessons, she then played the flute, and today she's mostly well known for some of her flute music.
Something I love about working with Anna Bonn's music, and the fact that she was just a woman composer in a time where that was so unheard of. I just really love it, and she was so young. She was around my age when she composed it, which I just think is so cool. I'm playing it for juries too. I'm studying the real sonata for this semester.
When we were choosing pieces for the show, we were listening to such a wide variety of different choral pieces and arias from the Baroque period, and especially orchestral pieces that could feature the early music ensemble.
I found a poet, Gaspara Stampa, through some research, and I discovered that she had a huge book of poetry. It was about 500 pages, and I purchased that book and I read through all of those poems. I came up with a collection of maybe 15 or 20 different examples of what could be the text for the show. I sent that to my colleague, Parker Kunkel, and he looked at it and we started to have conversations back and forth.
Throughout the show, there are 7 variations of the Bonn piece, whether it's a short fragment heard in the flute or a duet between a few of the characters using the Italian setting, or an orchestral postlude to the first act.
One of the most exciting aspects of this project is that the students in my graduate seminar in fall 2025 were charged with transcribing some of the music that has ended up being in this opera. When it comes to music of the 17th and 18th centuries, a lot of it was transmitted through manuscripts. We are certainly in a time when print culture was becoming more prevalent, but manuscripts continued to circulate. And I think it's really beautiful that you will see in this opera there is a manuscript that is a very important piece of the story, something that the lead character is given that provides clues to her identity. The Ospedaletto is special for me specifically because in the Sala della Musica, there is this beautiful fresco. So you walk in, and at the far end, the far wall, there is a fresco that depicts the god Apollo with some of the figlie di coro, some of the young women orphaned musicians. In the center of this fresco, there is a depiction of a music score, of a music manuscript. So through research, I was able to discover exactly what the piece is.
What I look for in an opera is acting. It's the pinnacle. Curriculum-wise, it's put to the left a little bit because there are so many things that musicians have to know, singers have to know, languages, being able to sight read, be able, it's just, there's so much. So a fabulous opera singer, fabulous acting opera singer, melts my heart.
The thing that I love about Dawn, and there's so many things, is that she's so imaginative. She just really sees the pictures and the characters vividly. So it's been lovely to think about how do we make those images and those sounds.
Baroque music will sound a little different from most other operas that we might encounter today. People might know Verdi or Puccini or Rossini. Those are much later composers. First of all, the instruments are quite different. Baroque orchestras very typically have something called the basso continuo ensemble, which is a combination of, in our case, harpsichord and cello or a viola da gamba or some other instrument that reinforces the bass line. Because when you think about Baroque music, the most important elements are the bass and the melody. As we wrote the script for this opera, we kind of debated what to call our ospedale. And early on, we had attached the name of the Pietà to our ospedale. My wonderful colleague, Dawn Pierce, while we were in Venice, had the brilliant idea of coming up with a fictional space. So not calling it Pietà or Derelitti or one of the other ospedali, but calling it the Ospedale della Carità. Carità meaning charity or mercy. And I think that has worked incredibly well because we wanted this space to, in a sense, represent all four of the ospedali and not be necessarily attached to the history of one of these particular institutions. We wanted to preserve the kind of fictional nature of our story, and therefore I think it's been a really great little twist to our script writing.
For me, opera in this century can actually go back maybe more to its origins, just like this piece does. The word opera comes from a Latin term, opera, which is the plural of opus, and it means work. I really love the idea that we're creating a work, but we're actually growing through the process of working together. And that's what I think about when I think of opera at Penn State. It's what I think about of opera in the world right now, is why is it relevant? It's relevant because we are all working together, we're collaborating, and we're creating something better than the sum of our parts.
This production is a pastiche opera. This whole tradition of the pastiche is something that goes back to the Baroque. We have pieced together the music of many different composers from the Baroque period. But then we have also added a storyline that is original.
One of the exciting things about a pastiche like this is the ability to make this show our own and form the show around the cast and production crew.
Working with the music students has been really fun. It's nice to be back in the classroom, especially in the rehearsal. I love rehearsals. To me, they are the cake that you're baking. The performance is the frosting. I mean, what are you going to eat the most of? You're going to eat the process right there. And I came in as somebody they didn't know, and they embraced me, And I feel like I've learned from them, and hopefully they've learned from me. It's a huge operation. It's bigger than it looks, and it's taken more coordination. And my hat is off to Dawn for keeping her cool while everything was out there in this gigantic puzzle, putting it together.
It's hard to believe that this year-long collaborative process that has involved so many layers, so much care, so much love, so much energy, so much passion is about to be shared with all of you. And that's the piece that you can help us to finish. This piece will not exist without an audience. And you're leaning in and you're listening and breathing with us and engaging with us is what will complete the circle of non più nascoste.
Our story begins in 1709 Venice, Italy, with the tragic death of Alvise Grimani. Before his passing, he reveals to his second wife, Hortensia, that his daughter, Gianna, born from his first marriage, has been raised behind the walls of the Ospedale della Carità.
Across 20 years, Gianna has become a gifted musician whose voice and passion set her apart. Shocked by this reveal, Hortensia's rage rises.
Gianna and the other filiae living in the Ospedale dedicate their lives to performance, education, faith, and artistic devotion.
Beyond the Ospedale's walls, the people of Venice both revere and restrict these women. Though celebrated for their talents, the filiae perform behind the iron grille.
Central to Gianna's story is her relationship with her mentors and peers, particularly Nurse Paolina and her teacher, Maestro Antonio Vivaldi. A mysterious manuscript and a family member emerge to challenge Gianna's self-identity.
Gianna, like many before her, must confront the tension between the life that she has built within the institution and the possibilities that exist beyond it. Marriage, patronage, or independence.
Ultimately, this opera tells the story of identity, choice, and artistic legacy. It asks us what it means to belong, to create, and to be heard in a world that often limits whose voices can endure. We witness not only the making of a musician, but the claiming of a life shaped by music itself. Please enjoy Penn State Opera Theater's Non più nascoste.